Central California is an incredible place for people who love nature and gorgeous scenery. Among the many natural areas and parks to visit, one of the most beautiful is Point Lobos State Natural Reserve. Today, we're with our friend and professional bird guide Rachel Clark, visiting this incredibly diverse area to see what bird species live there. Right away, it seemed that the wildlife would be easy to find. In Point Lobos, there's this picnic area, and all of the birds here are super friendly because they're probably used to getting handouts from people. So there's like a dark-eyed junco that was just on the ground right by a picnic table, California scrub jay, and then of course the western gull, which will just stand on top of you basically if you have food. So it's kind of a cool area where people come often, birds are used to it, and therefore you get this kind of behavior.
Look at this thing. They're so tame. You just like, you could probably feed it by hand if you wanted to. We're not gonna. But, yeah, if you want western gull within a couple feet of you, Point Lobos.
You want me to hug him?
Yep.
Here, little buddy.
Oh.
While there were plenty of birds to watch in the parking lot, it was the birds that we could find in the forests that had our attention even more. This unique coastal forest played host to two species that we were eager to see: the Chestnut-backed Chickadee and the Hutton Vireo. As soon as we entered the forest, we noticed that the unique plants made the habitat feel very different. This coastal evergreen forest that we're in right now is a really interesting place because it actually has the moss hanging from the trees, and it's definitely a lot more damp than some of the other habitats that we've experienced in California. So it's like everywhere you turn in this state, there's new habitat, and this one has a totally new set of species as well. While this habitat was certainly beautiful, one plant there made walking around slightly dangerous. So this habitat is really unique, and it's also very beautiful, has some great birds, but one of the big downsides is that there's all of this poison oak lining the trail. So if you didn't know that this was poison oak, there's a high likelihood you would brush up against it or just touch it at some point, and that would be a big time problem for you. So while we look for these birds, we're definitely not going to be going off trail very much because this stuff is lining it, and we don't want to have any trouble. After exploring for a while, and doing our best to avoid the poison oak, we had our first encounter with one of the species we were looking for. Chestnut-backed Chickadee, let's go! That's a really cool chickadee species. They're totally beautiful. We saw some pretty briefly, but they were out in the open. See if we can get some more views of them while we're here. The chestnut-backed chickadee can be identified by its dark brown cap and throat, gray wings and tail, and namesake chestnut color on their back and sides. These birds are year-round residents of the western United States, including parts of Alaska and western Canada. Much like other chickadee species, chestnut-backed chickadees are extremely active and can seem quite friendly around humans. While their diet consists mostly of small invertebrates, they will also eat seeds and berries, meaning they will make an appearance at backyard bird feeders. Look for these adorable birds in coastal forests of the states bordering the Pacific, where their telltale chickadee call can be heard throughout a wide variety of habitats, ranging from conifer woods to more urban settings such as neighborhoods.
Chestnut-backed chickadee. We had one that was being pretty cooperative, and it was perched up and preening. And I always find the chickadees fascinating because it's like, I've seen something like this before, but it's slightly different. And it's really neat to see him in a new habitat. Yeah, he's right up here.
After spending some time watching the chickadees, Rachel heard our second target bird off in the distance.
Actually, let's go farther down this way for the Hutton Vireo. I hear it singing really loudly over here, so I think if we go a little farther, we'll be in really good shape. Here, the Hutton Vireo is vocalizing. So we're right over in there, that repetitive tear. That's our Hutton Vireo. They're very vocal. They look like a much bulkier ruby crowned kinglet, so let's see if we can go get this guy for you guys.
We followed the sounds and caught our lifer looks at a Hutton Vireo. Just got some excellent looks at the Hutton Vireos. There's an adult and then a juvenile that's very close to being an adult, but it's still getting fed by the parent. So it's really neat to see those two birds interact with each other. And then it seems like there's also a third one around as well. So tough species to get a look at, but eventually did actually get some views of it out in the open, which was really sweet.
Hutton's
Life for Hutton's
baby
Vireo for you
Huttons.
guys. Woohoo! We even got to see a fledgling.
Hutton's Vireos are compact and stubby-looking birds with a grayish-green body. Other features to note are their yellowish-colored wings and tail, white wing bars, and white eye ring. Hutton's Vireos are year-round residents in parts of Central America, Mexico, and the Pacific coast of North America and Canada. States they inhabit include New Mexico, Arizona, California, Washington, and Oregon. Hutton's Vireos feed on insects and other similar invertebrates such as spiders. These small but bulky-looking birds actively search for food, moving somewhat methodically through branches and in vegetation. Hutton's Vireos can be found in mixed forests, including oak and conifer. They will also reside in coastal chaparral. In any of these habitats, they can often be seen in pairs or groups, as well as associating with flocks of other small birds, such as nuthatches and chickadees.
Those Hutton's Vireos were adorable. They would not sit still, so there's a lot of like looking all over the place. We're gonna kind of backtrack and see if we can find some of the birds we've been hearing but haven't been able to see yet, but excited about what we've seen so far.
We continued scouring the forest, finding bush tits and pygmy nuthatches. Feeling happy to have found our 2 target birds relatively easily, we moved on to exploring some of the other parts of Point Lobos, including some absolutely stunning coastline. Before getting too far, however, we spent some time searching for a species that lives in coastal chaparral habitat. We got our life looks at a Wrentit, and compared to what we thought they were going to be, they're actually massive. So one popped up in one of the bushes, and we were like, what is that? Is that a towhee? And it was the Wrentit, because I thought it was going to be the size of a bush tit or something, and the thing is big, but it's super skulky. It came out briefly, and we're going to see if maybe we can get a look at another one, or a better look at the same one. After getting some quick looks at both a male and female Wrentit, we explored the coast, finding a lot of interesting species. Later on, however, we returned to the forest, where Rachel once again heard an interesting bird species that would be rare for the location and time of year: a summer tanager. No,
Right up the
where?
tree.
Oh, yeah.
Look at this gap in these 2 small trees. He's right there, guys.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, but they're mostly a Southern California thing, like riparian forests.
That's awesome.
Good spot.
Oh, that's...
I got great videos of it. Like, it was just out there sitting, like, boom,
Nice.
dead ringer summer tanager.
This is like one of the most excited times I think I've seen you.
Yes, that was really cool. Summer Tanager was not on my radar here, but I heard that picky-tuck call. I did a horrible impression of that. But yes, either way, it's very chattery and very distinctive. I heard that, was very surprised, and we had to chase it down. And luckily we did. Gorgeous male. It doesn't look like it's reached full adulthood. It's mostly red, but you can still see a fair amount of yellow on it, indicating that it's not a full adult yet. But that was really cool. Great looks, very obliging, and I'm very excited right now since they're considered rare here.
She nailed it by ear. She heard it and she was like, that's a summer tanager.
That's true.
And
Yep.
then we followed it and it was a summer tanager. So we got good looks at it too, actually.
Yeah.
It was being very difficult for a while and then it showed itself very nicely. And it did have that immature plumage with mostly red but a little bit of yellow, which I think is actually the coolest look of the summer tanager.
Yeah,
It's cooler
pretty
than the all red version.
The Starburst Tanager.
Being honest, yeah. Finding everything we were hoping for in the forest, we moved to another part of Point Lobos and on to our next adventure. These fascinating coastal forests certainly played host to some interesting species and proved to be a haven for birds both looking to raise young as well as just passing through. Our trip to Point Lobos wouldn't have been nearly as successful, however, if not for Rachel, who with her keen ear was able to easily pick out the species we were hoping to see most, as well as a few other birds we weren't expecting, such as the summer tanager. If you'd like to book a guided tour with Rachel, check out the link to her website, Central California Birding Tours, in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Badgerland Birding.